KL7 here. Roger, thank you, Carol. Good evening. Good evening. This is Neil, Kilo Lima 7 Hotel, Quebec, Romeo, the net control operator tonight for the River City ARCS slow scan television net. This net serves for training and practice in image transmission modes and runs on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. California time on N6NA repeater on 441.30 megahertz. River City ARCS members and all licensed amateur radio operators are welcome to participate. If you wish to join the net, please, if you wish to join the net or need to make a call at any time, please announce your call sign in between the transmissions and the net control will acknowledge you. If an emergency should arise and you need the repeater, please contact the net control by saying break, break. A double break, as always, signifies emergency traffic. The net will stand by for you until the emergency is terminated or traffic is moved to another frequency. Stations who wish to check in are requested to respond with their full call sign using the recognized ITU phonetic alphabet and their name. We will recognize each station before continuing. Stations that would like to participate, please go ahead, but I already have Alpha India 6 Delta Golf and N6BGQ. I also have logged in KB4MD, who is possibly not participating directly but controlling our YouTube transmission. Anybody else that would like to join the net? It's a perfect double. Let's try again, please. Station trying to get in, please go ahead. And we had a double.
November Romeo, 6 Hotel, this is Anders. Third time, trying again.
Okay, Anders, welcome. I don't know who else was there, but it looks like it was perfectly starting and ending exactly at the same time. Anybody else? Okay, we'll see. We'll start with what we have. We'll check myself in, KL7 and we will start with Mr. Alpha India 6 Delta Golf. Go ahead, sir. Very good.
PD 120. In keeping with the weather tonight and recently.
KL7HQR. Well, I received a good picture. In my case, it appears to be basically black and white, but I'll reserve any comments. In order of checking in, N6PGQ. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, my computer was unable to decode it. All I have are bars and squiggles, and so I'm not able to make a comment. It just didn't come through here. N6PGQ.
Anything that we can possibly assist on? Any problem that you have there, or you know what's going on?
No, I can't think of anything. The only thing that I can think of is it's trying to get it off of the computer's microphone instead of the signal link, so I have to figure out where I go to make that thing work. I think it's down in the bottom someplace, like in the little sound thing.
I tell you what, let's go through the comments from the other, and when we're done, before we send the other picture, we'll get back to you and see if somebody can give you a hand, okay? Let's go to Enders and R6H.
Good evening, this is NR6H, and I'm looking at a picture that I received almost spot-free, so the transmission, there was no issue there. Six black bars on the top and the bottom, and in the middle a wintry landscape of some form. Some rock formations, two black blobs that I'm not sure what they are. If they could be bears, I guess, or something like that, but I can't really tell. Contrast is a little bad, yeah, the spot-free picture. It looks like it's kind of a cliff edge or a wall that drops off from going away in the picture, but hard to tell. It kind of reminds me of my favorite TV show, Game of Thrones. Looks like a picture could be from north of the wall there, but not sure. I hope Joel hasn't been there, so probably from somewhere else. And R6H back to that.
KL7HQ, Carrie indicated before that she would not be making any comments or evaluations tonight. She just concentrates on working, making sure that our YouTube is working. And I'm looking at YouTube, and they got a good picture. I don't see on my YouTube here I don't see the chat side of it, so I don't know who is also monitoring on YouTube. But we'll see if I can see that later. The picture that I got is like Enders indicated, is a winter condition. Looks like in a mountain. Looks like there are two different levels. Looks like in front is a lot of rocks, but in the back could be snow-covered trees. Looks like there may be a difference in distance between the front, and then more distance part of the picture in the background. The two black items, I don't know. It could be a person sitting there in on a black with black jackets or covers, and a snack sack sitting on top of a branch. Trying to interpret what I see here. But it came through very well. It's just a question of knowing exactly what we look like. We just drove up and down to Reno today and went to the mountains, and here it's an incredible view of the snowpack in there, and the snow against the trees, not only on top, but inches splattered on all the trunks of the trees sideways. So it looks like a lot of wind. So back to AI60G. Joe, what's the situation? What can you tell us?
Well, hopefully as this describe this, you're going to have a moment when it starts making sense. This is an example of what the National Park Service rangers in Yosemite woke up to a couple of mornings ago. And this is looking down at a section of the Big Oak Flat Road. That's one of the main roads into Yosemite, into the valley. This is a section where the road is basically following a cliff or a very steep mountain slope down into the valley. So in the foreground, at the bottom, is the road, and in the background, we're looking across the valley at the mountain slope on the other side of this section of the valley. But although some of that are trees that are just on the downslope of the road, so they're not as far as they look. And this section of, well, Yosemite in general, rock slides, but it's particularly bad in winter with the freeze-thaw cycles. And they've had, in the last week, the roads closed a couple of times and a couple of rock falls. And you see here on the left middle, where the road proceeds downslope, and if you know what you're looking at, you can kind of see a ranger truck down there from someone who drove up to take a look at the damage. Probably wouldn't surprise me if the person who took this picture drove up in it. You've got on the right center a very large white snow-covered boulder that came down, and on the left kind of center-ish, a couple of big black boulders, not snow-covered, and various rubble across the middle, between them onto the right. And you got smaller-sized boulders and broken-up trees and branches and so forth, and kind of a gully in the center. So it looks like there's some roadbed damage. I think this particular road's going to be closed for a little while, but both to get the boulders blasted and off the road, and then to repair the roadbed damage, which is probably the bigger problem, not getting the boulders off, but repairing the bed, because it looks to me like there's a little bit of a gully. Let me let it drop. I've actually seen another photo from a different perspective off to the left and looking towards this direction, where that big black boulder to the middle left actually kind of seems to have the roadbed with a star pattern streaming out from it. I guess the boulder came down and hit the pavement so hard that it left a dimple. And those are car-sized boulders, by the way. Back to net, AI6DG.
Well, it looks like we had a general idea. We hit the nail on the head as far as the general idea, but we did not identify the specific location. Thanks for the clarification. And it looks like they're going to have some work to do. It's interesting that you mentioned that they're car-size boulders. Now that could give us a different perspective. Any questions or comments on the farther in the picture? Well, thank you, sir. Now let's, before we go on, Bob, what can we try to do to help you? I think you are familiar with N6NA SSTV setting up of the sound cards. Am I correct?
Well, somewhat. I just restarted the software and it says can't open sound card. So I don't know what I can do. Let me try turning the signal link on and off. And go to this thing and let's restart the software.
Go ahead, Cal.
Go into Options, Miscellaneous tab, and reselect the correct sound devices. Sometimes Windows gets confused and you have to just reselect the same, even though it seems like it's the same device, you've got to reselect it. Actually, sometimes you have to select a different device and then and exit out, and then go back in and select the correct device again. Give that a try. Back to net, AI6DG.
Okay. Okay, you guys, you're going to have to give me a hand. Where the heck is options?
Okay. First of all, is the green light on your signal link?
Yes, it is.
You're connected. If you have open N6NA SSTV as you're ready to transmit, on the top left, you have underneath File, Edit, View, and all those things, you have other tabs which are Sync, Receive, History, Transmit, Template. Do you see those?
I do.
Above that, above History, you see Options.
Okay, I got that. So, how about sound card input level, maybe?
Could be. Let's see what you have on Options. You go down to on the very bottom, Setup, SSTV.
Okay, there we are. It gave me a whole bunch of stuff.
You have RX, Receive, Transmit, and Miscellaneous up on top.
Correct.
Click Miscellaneous.
Okay, there we are.
Right underneath, in the very first, should be sound card, input and output. The input should be line USB audio codec. Click on the down arrow and see what is selected. And if you have that option, select that USB audio codec.
Okay, I got it, and it went away. And so, obviously, output should be speakers USB audio codec, correct?
Correct. Was it something different, or it was already there?
No, it was something different.
Go ahead and select those, and then click OK to close the...
Okay, well, let me try giving you guys a tone then. Oops, here came the message. Can't open sound card.
Okay, I think the only other thing I would say, go do the same thing. Go down to Options and Miscellaneous. And like it was mentioned, select something else, and then get out, go back in, select the codec one more time. And then you close down the program all the way and open it back up. After this, if that doesn't work, I'll stand by for somebody else to come in with some ideas.
Okay, let me try. Oop, came back up again. Can't open sound card. So I guess I'm worthless tonight, guys. I'll just listen to the net, and I'll talk to you, Neil, later so we aren't bothering everybody else.
No problem. Anybody else, Anders or Joe, any further ideas?
A wild idea would be that there is already a program open that is using the sound card, so maybe you have another copy of MSSTV running or something else that is actually trying to grab onto that card. But other than that, I'm also out of ideas. NRC.
Thank you, Anders. Bob, I think in the bottom you would see if there is any other program that is open on the I don't know what it's called, the very bottom bar that we show all the programs that are running right now.
No, they're just shortcuts, and nothing's running. So, hang on, I'll click that one. And oh, go away. Okay. Nah, nothing. I'll just have to stand by till next week. So go ahead, guys. N6PGQ.
No problem, Bob. And meanwhile, if you while we go on, go ahead and try rebooting the computer and try one more time. And don't go away. Just listen to us. Okay. So, Anders, it's your turn, sir.
All right. So just for cleanness sake here, I'll try it home.
You have tone.
All right, so then we will run with a TD-120. Here we go.
This scale 7-inch QR for the N6NA SSTV Net. Good copy, Anders. Got a very few spots in here. So let's go back to Joel, I60G. How did you copy this one?
Well, like you said, excellent. It was a very few pops, and N6NA SSTV Net 221214, and what's it down at the bottom? DENR6H. So I'm assuming this is something from home, his home, from Europe, Scandinavia. This looks familiar. This I don't remember where I've seen this, that it looks familiar, but it's obviously a holiday tradition of some kind over there. It's a giant goat statue with the really long horns going up and out towards the back, in a nice golden color. I wonder what it is. Is it like flowers or hay bales? With nice red ribbons around the middle, around the horns, the nose, the legs. Building nice old European-style buildings in the background, everything covered in snow, including the trees in the background on the left, and some guy wires going off at weird angles to keep it upright. And I'm looking in the foreground, we've got some the ramps with poles at the end of them. I'm trying to, yeah. So yeah, there's more going on here, I'm sure. I look forward to hearing more. Back to Net AI6TG.
7HQR. Well, following this gentleman on descriptions is always very hard because he is so detailed and so thorough, and observes so many more details that most of us, at least me, kind of fail to see. But very good copy. I would not guess what kind of animal it is. Very long horns that rotate all the way back to the back, and it appears that they contain, at the end of the horns, there's a box or a container of some kind. Outside of that, his description is perfect. I could not add anything else. With Bob not monitoring and Carol not making comments, just the three of us, so I'm sorry we have nobody else to make comments. So let's go back to Anderson, RS-6H.
All right, yeah, this is the famous julebocken, or the Christmas goat, that they erect in Gävle. So Gävle is a city about 100 miles north of Stockholm, on the coast of Sweden. And every year since this has been a tradition for ever since the 60s, I believe 66 was the first time they erected this monstrous thing in the town square there in Gävle, and it's a huge thing. It's been kind of growing over the years. I think they're up to well over 40 feet now, so it's a big goat constructed out of wood and hay. So yeah, that's all hay bales that they kind of tied together with steel string, and got that whole thing stood up there. So it's been a tradition for quite a while, well over 50 years, and obviously a case for Guinness Book of World Records a few times. In fact, there are more than one in this city, so there are two more, usually not as big as this one, but they usually put up at least three around in this town every year. And the backstory to this thing is that every year also, because it's made out of hay, it catches fire, and it's become kind of a arsonist's dream to toss a match on this thing and watch it go up in flames. You can imagine that it goes pretty fast when that happens. So out of those 56 years that they have been doing this, this thing has only survived Christmas 18 times. So they put this up at very late in November. I think it's first of Advent, so that would be the last Sunday of November this year. And it's supposed to stand till after Christmas and kind of bring Christmas in. But like I said, they have caught fire many times, most of the times actually, at short break. And it's been kind of a race between the arsonists and the people around this, the city, to try to keep this thing alive till Christmas. And they've been doing all kinds of things. They build fences. So you can see the fence go all the way around this thing here. That's what we see in the foreground here, the wood fence that goes all around it. But they've also they've drenched it in flame retardant. They have been put up CCTV cameras. You can actually watch this thing live 24/7 to watch for arsonists if you want to. There are guard dogs. There are guards 24/7 around this thing, and still they have problems keeping it alive. And it's been they decided that if it goes up in flames before Lucia, which was yesterday, the 13th of December, if it goes up in flames before that, they rebuild it. If it doesn't if it stands over Lucia, then they just leave it down. And well, as of today, officially, we're after Lucia. The thing is still there. So this year, hopefully, it will actually remain, and maybe we'll add another year to this tradition. So that's the story about the julebock or jule goat in Gävle. So now you know that. And R6H back tonight.
That's fascinating. Thank you. That's quite interesting and quite detailed explanation and very intriguing. Before I say anything, any questions or comments, Joel?
So I see the mesh of the fence in the background, but what are the ramps in the foreground? Is that a wooden fence or something else?
Well, let's see. What we see in the immediate foreground, the sticks that are vertical, those are just wood sticks that hold up the fence. And then you see some strings that go diagonally up towards the statue. I believe those are Christmas lights, or they may be guy wires. But I'd probably think they're just guy wires, probably. So they have some ice on them. That's why they look white and artificial.
So the ramps or diagonal things in the foreground at the very, very, very bottom are the fence.
Yes, correct. Yeah, so you can see it. I don't know, maybe the resolution is bad, but you can see it on the far side. You can see the same ramps going the same way. So that's actually a very traditional type of fence that is used in the rural areas around in Sweden. You put vertical sticks like that, and then diagonal sticks across to make a fence just like that. So that is very traditional. So yeah, it is a fence and hard to finish.
Gotcha. Thanks. Back to Net N6NA.
Anders, your audio is not up to quality that you normally present to us. It seems to be considerably lower in amplitude, and it's not as full. It looks like, I don't know if you have some audio processing that you have going on.
Well, I have a new mixer, and I still have not been able to really tune it in. So I'll bump up my audio a little bit. How about this? Trying now. 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, testing.
Yeah, improved noticeably. It's not as full, as it looks like it's more towards the middle to high frequency. It doesn't have that warm tone that normally you have, but the volume just came up considerably so much better. That's quite interesting. Is this catching on? You said there are 1 or 2 cities, but is this catching on, spreading over Sweden, or is it just more a localized item?
No, this is very local to this town, Gävle. That's where this is done, and I don't know of any other town that has been following this tradition. This is kind of their thing, so it's very well known, and I think that if somebody else would pick it up, it would probably be seen as just pure plagiarism. So I don't think that would be appreciated. But yeah, this is a thing for Gävle for sure. Thank you.
Very interesting. That's the great thing about this net. We have different backgrounds, and we mentioned about doing things that show what we work and what kind of work we do, and also what kind of background we have and what kind of experiences, and learning about different parts of the world. Thanks. I really appreciate that. Very well. Unfortunately, Bob is not there to help us. He usually has some very interesting pictures. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to send a picture that I sent a few years ago when I first started doing SSTV. But the reason I'm going to send it is because I want to try a different mode. I'm going to try Scotty 1. Let's see how that goes. If you have auto selected on your program, it should automatically pick it up. So there we go. Okay, as I said, this is a attempt to use a different mode. It's only about, I think, about 320 instead of the normal 640. Let's see, Joe, how did you copy that?
That certainly sounded different. Excellent reception, though because it's a slightly different resolution, it's kind of overlaid on top of the previous photo with us. I've got a little rim on the left and right of the previous photo. So we got a guy sitting in a seat and kind of rotated around and looking back at us because it's looking forward. We're in a cockpit of, is it a plane or a space shuttle? Because he's wearing a spacesuit helmet, although it's only the helmet. I mean, he's wearing a suit and tie with a nice red tie and below the helmet. Anyway, new style with displays, like TV, monitor displays instead of dials, lots of switches. Don't know, can't look out the windows to see whether it's a plane at a airport or a hangar or anything. I can't really see that. We can see out the plane at all. This may be a simulator. Back to net, AI6DG.
Before I go to Anderson, I'm looking at the YouTube picture, and there are some distortions in that picture. But the picture is okay, but there are some horizontal bars right through the face that seem to have been some kind of interference. But Anders, what did you get?
This is NR6H, and I got a pretty much perfect reception. I have, maybe one or two pops somewhere, but they are very tiny compared to what they usually are. So, and they kind of blend in with the colors of the picture. What I think is striking is that it looks really sharp, even though the resolution is low. The pixels are really sharp. I believe this mode takes a little longer to transmit. This was a lower resolution picture, so it's only using 1/4 of the amount of pixels that we use in PD120. But every pixel is very sharp. So the N6NA SSTV text at the top is jagged out of pixels for me, so I can see each individual pixel around each of the letters. As for the motive, we clearly see Neil in his QTH here with all the radios. The weird thing is, though, that there are no microphones, but I guess that's built into the helmet. NR6H, back to net.
Then I wish. I don't think I could pay the electrical bill for that. But I think both of you are a little correct. Joe is correct that it is a simulator, and you're correct that that is me, a very young myself back in the early 90s. And I was the software quality assurance manager for the upgrades to the Space Shuttle simulator at Johnson Space Center. And we spent several months upgrading the hydraulics and the visuals and put new color screens and etc. And this is the motion simulator. So when it came time to, before we turned it back over to the crew to test, several of us decided to go and ride it. But since we were going to go and stand it up on its tail to simulate the takeoff, we were requested to wear helmets because even though we had a very, very clear procedure to make sure everything we use came out of there throughout the operation, there could be some loose screws and screwdrivers that would kind of do some dance. And so we wear helmets. And yeah, indeed, there were a few items that came tumbling down, but everybody survived. But that's basically it. It's the Space Shuttle Simulator motion based on Building 5 at Johnson Space Center. And it was up after they upgraded it to what they call the glass cockpit. So a little bit different than the manual that I have here. But that's basically it. Any comments or questions?
just that that's really, really cool. I wish I had a chance to play with that thing for extended time. Do you know if it's still there? Is it still accessible?
No, it's not there anymore. The simulators were moved up. They had 3 simulators. They had 2 fixed bays, where underneath they simulated in a fixed base just the what they call the mid deck, and then this one was the motion base, but it was just the cockpit. It didn't have the mid deck, and it was fascinating because in order to transition back to the crew. I had the opportunity to sit on the back seat. You can see barely the blue in the foreground of the picture at the back of the mission specialist seat, and to sit there, and we would go through the takeoff and do a takeoff from Florida, and then do a reset to come in back. And they would be saying, "Oh, the visual is good. That road in there, we use that house very much, and the motion is too strong. It's realistic, but we don't need it that much." So we take notes during the night. We do that between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. and then reset and do the whole thing again. So it was a fascinating thing to see how those astronauts were doing their job. So yeah, I was a happy camper.
I can imagine. There are lots of experience there to be had and to learn from. Very, very cool. So yeah, sounds fun. Thanks so much for sharing NR6H back to net.
Yeah, thank you. And I was curious and interested in the comments you made about the mode. I'm going to see if I can start using different modes every so often because there are so many of them, and I don't know what basically the differences are. So I'm going to try to do some experiments on occasion. If there are no other comments, let's see. I still don't see how many people are on YouTube. I can only see that there are 4 watching. I am watching, so I'm one of them. I imagine Kara is one. So there are 2 others, but I don't see on the screen there who they are. So let's see if there are any other comments. Otherwise, if Carol has any comments, I want to jump in. If negative, we will take a minute and then close the net. The scale 7 HQR standing by.
Yeah, 60.
Please go ahead, sir.
Scotty, one I think I heard Carol say once is more commonly used on HF, but maybe she has something more to say about what's commonly used on HF. Is it just Scotty, or are there other modes now? But anyway, just a comment. AI6TG, back to net.
I think there's something to be done to do a research on the internet to study a little bit more, at least about the groupings, because there's so many Scotties and so many other types. So one more time, any other comments or questions? Well, hearing none, we're going to make it a little bit shorter net tonight. I appreciate participation, Joe and Bob and Anders, and also Carol for making possible the YouTube, which now I learn how to watch without interfering with my transmission. So one more checkbox in there. So appreciate it, and we will return next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Pacific time. And hopefully we'll be able to get Bob back on the saddle there and transmit some beautiful pictures. Maybe James will be back. And until then, this is Neil, Kilo Lima 7 Hotel, Quebec, Romeo, now closing the net at 22, I have here 47, or thereabouts. Good night, guys. 73. Thank you. Yes, I can read it. It is 21:47, not 22.
Yeah, that was after my bedtime, so I immediately fell asleep when you said that, but that wasn't it. Thanks for the comments about my audio. I will work on that for sure, and thanks for running the 7-3, everybody.
And Anders, before you go, now that the net's closed, I do have a small flight simulator at home that I built. And if you ever have a chance would like to spend an hour and come in for a cup of coffee or something and take a look at it, you're more than welcome.
Oh, very cool. I will camp there for sure. Actually, I've been toying with that. No, I don't have a much of gear. My son has a beefy computer that is capable of running a high-resolution Microsoft Flight Sim, and he is. In fact, I believe it was. I got the software in, I don't know, last Christmas or Christmas before that. I got the Flight Sim software, but I don't have a computer that is capable of it. So he's running it on his machine, and we've been toying with that, of course. We got the pedals and we got the stick. So one of the things that I've been trying to master there is to keep a helicopter in the air. But when you turn up all the realism settings, it is really difficult when you can't feel the motion. You just have to look at it. So, but it's a lot of fun for sure.
Scale 7 HQ. Yeah, well, you're starting with the hard thing. You know, I'm a private pilot, low time, and I don't understand how helicopters work. You know, it is just in a plane, you trim it properly, you let go, and it will just stay and take care of itself. You push the nose down, and it will automatically, it has positive stability, will come back and kind of level itself up. Helicopter does not have that. It's like they say, it's trying to always, 100% of the time, trying to balance a broom on its fingertips. And so it's a constant work. So you're starting with the hardest thing. The Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 version that it came out is incredibly much more effective and beautiful than they ever had, and it's a lot more realistic than what I ever saw in the shuttle, because it covers the whole world, and the shuttle the programs only cover the specific Sarasota, Spain, and all those places where they could possibly land, and also on orbit. But so the visuals that you have today are 10 times better than I have ever seen at the shuttle simulator. So you're welcome to come in. I have a reasonable computer, and I don't know where you're located, but we're here in Antelope, and except for a little bit in January that I'll be out on a trip, just a question of coordinating time and date, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, that sounds fun, definitely. So you have the setup with a full control panel from some plane, or what do you have as a control surface for the flight sim? KL7HQR and R6H.
Scale 7HQR. Well, what I built a console that has a triple screen up on top, and then a couple of other screens below, so I can see the instruments and a map. And I bought some panels for the radio. I have double radios, and I have a panel for the throttle and mixture and in top. I have another box that has the landing gear controls and lights and controls autopilot. And I have a joystick. I also have the control wheel, the yoke. But right now I'm set up with the stick. I tell you what, I will get a picture of that and send it up on the SSTV next time.
Excellent. Sounds good. Yeah, that sounds impressive and sounds like a lot of fun for sure. So you said you've been flying for real in the past. So you obviously are you flying the same type of aircraft when you're doing it in the simulator, or are you doing other things in there?
No, I am flying just what I would fly in real life. As I said, I have very little time, but I got my license back in the late 60s in the Air Force, and flew Cessnas and some Pipers and small things like that, single engine. And so we did some flying in Alaska, did some flying in Houston. But now it's been, God, only I think about 20 years since I last logged any time. I have flown with friends and had a chance to do some flying, but as part of the command, it's been decades. So I've been doing it in the simulator. A lot of people like to fly simulators, like try to fly 737s, 747s, and etc. And that's a lot of fun. But I try to do it more as a practice. Let's do a realistic flight and do the checklist, and like if I was flying for real. And for me, that's much more interesting than try to see what the big ones can do. Although the flight simulator of Microsoft is pretty good at that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I would probably agree with you there. That's also my ambition. There is I have it on my very long wish list to at some point actually go through the training and finish that off. But I've read some books. I've done much of the theory. What's his name? Stick and Rudder. He's got a funny name. I don't remember him now. But that guy, he wrote a really good book on all the aerodynamics, what's going on up there. So I enjoyed reading that for sure, and been doing some short test flights with friends. But yeah, it's on my bucket list for sure. But yeah, sounds like a lot of fun, and I'd love to come by and see the setup at some point. NR6H.
Very well. Let's keep that on top of the table, and whenever it's possible, your invitation is open. Thanks for your participation, Anders. You always bring some very interesting discussions to these nets. Appreciate you taking part on it. NR6H KL7HQR saying good night, sir, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Sounds good. Likewise, have a fantastic night, and appreciate you running the net tonight. This is NR6H signing off 7-3.